All right, I want to talk about intermittent fasting. And the reason I want to do this is because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about this diet. Now, anyone that follows this diet or likes this diet will tell you that it has superpowers and it can cure cancer and make contact with aliens and go into the depths of outer space and bridge that gap intergalactically. But really, what is the evidence behind intermittent fasting compared to normal diets or normal ways of eating? Is it something you should be following to help you lose weight, control your blood glucose levels, and actually improve your long-term health outcomes? So that's just what I wanted to go into and answer today. Well, before we can analyze anything, we really need to understand it. So what is intermittent fasting? Well, the diet comes in three forms. The first one is literally where you do split days. So you don't eat for a whole day or maybe more, and then you eat normally on the other days. And I've seen people do even extreme versions of this. I remember meeting one guy in the gym once. He was on a 3-day fast, squatting 150 kilograms. And to be fair, I thought if you can squat 150 kilograms on a 3-day fast, maybe it does work. Option 2 is probably the most commonly known, where you'll do days of reduced calorie intake and then you'll eat normally on the other days. So the most common example of this is the 5-2 diet, where you do 800 calories twice a week and then you eat normally on the other days. And then option 3 is time restricted. So you may choose a certain period in the day where you're going to eat, usually a 6-hour period, probably between lunch and the evening meal, 12 to 6 p.m, and then you fast all around that. So with option 3, you literally have a set period of time where you can stuff your face, and then after that, you have to close the floodgates and there's no more intake for that day. So we can already see there's lots of different versions of this. And so already, just comparing across those three, they're not all exactly the same. And when you think about it, option 3 there, where you do a time restricted fast, everyone does that to a certain extent. You go to sleep at night and then you wake up, between dinner and wake up, you've probably done 12 hours at least without eating, give or take. So, it helps people to regulate their intake, but if we're starting to compare intermittent fasting as an umbrella term, which version are we comparing against normal eating patterns? So that's just one thing to pick out. And actually, this is a common problem with nutritional research, because we're often trying to compare different versions of different diets and different types of nutrients against other things. So for example, carbohydrates, you have your good carbs, which is like your more slow releasing carbohydrates, vegetables, whole grains, fruits, beans, pulses, lentils, and you have your bad or worse kind of carbohydrates, which is more your refined stuff, white bread, white pasta, white rice, noodles, convenience foods, chocolate, cakes, biscuits. But often when research looks at carbohydrates as a whole, they'll just refer to them as carbohydrates. But we have two very different beasts here. If you're looking at the refined stuff, your health outcomes are probably going to get worse. If you're looking at the more slow releasing, more nutritious stuff, your health outcomes tend to get better. And that's proven time and time again in the research. So research has its flaws. And actually when we're looking at different diets, it's no different. Usually the durations are different in terms of how long the study was followed, different calorie intakes, different methodologies, different numbers of participants. Literally the problems just stack up and up and up. Nutrition research, basically it sucks. Compared to big pharmaceutical trials where they have a lot of funding behind them and they can get two groups that are equally matched, but in one group they say, you stay the same, in the other group they say, take this pill. That's a good study because they're only controlling one variable. It's almost impossible to do that with diet because every time you change one thing, you have to change something else. So the point I'm trying to make is the research is hard to interpret. However, when we do look at the research, we can see that intermittent fasting actually does seem to have a beneficial effect on things like body weight, blood glucose levels, lowering insulin resistance, which is a driver for type 2 diabetes, helps to reduce blood lipids like triglycerides and cholesterol, and has many benefits. But crucially, and here's a crucial fact, it doesn't seem to be any better compared to just conventional calorie restriction. So basically just following any other diet. It's no better, it's no worse. But this is an interesting point because I can kind of tune in to how people could do well with this type of diet, where they just have set rules. Like you're just going to have your low calorie days on this day, and on these days you're going to eat normally. Like, I could get on board with that if I was someone that needed to go on a diet, as opposed to perhaps the more wishy-washy approach where it's like, be calorie aware and just be intuitive with your eating. Try and eat some chocolate just to take the craving off, but don't eat too much because it might be high calorie. So I can definitely see how someone could tune into this, and actually I think it could work for a lot of people. Of course, if we're talking diabetes, one of the problems with fasting is if you're taking diabetes medications that can make your blood glucose go too low, like insulin or sulfonylureas, you can start to have a problem because you're going to have to adjust your medications based on the day that you're on. Otherwise, you could be at a big risk of a hypoglycemic episode. So if you're thinking about going on a fasting diet or just changing your diet anyway, then it's always worth tying in with your GP, your diabetes nurse, or your diabetes team to run it by them, because they might have to either change your medications or give you set rules about what to do on diet days compared to no diet days. One other point that's worth picking out here is how people behave on these diets, because the way it's put across is you have, say, let's look at the 5-2 diet then. So you have your 5 days of eating normally, and then you have your 2 days of reduced calorie intake. Now, it's very rare that I meet someone that on those 5 days where they're eating normally, they're going to KFC, McDonald's, binging out, and then they have their 2 low-calorie days. Actually, they're still conscious of the fact they want to lose weight, so they tend to be eating a lot better on the normal days as well as having those fast days. So actually, just their overall calorie intake is much lower than what it would have been had they just been eating normally. So I suspect had they actually just been more conscious of what they were doing on a normal diet, for lack of better expression, because, what is a normal diet? But let's just say it's your 3 square meals a day, trying to eat healthy, Mediterranean diet, I guess. Then they probably would have got very similar results. But it's because we like to jump, we like a gimmick, don't we? We like to be on something. So a lot of it is to do with the marketing. I think if a diet's ever trying to be sold to you, then always just think about it. There will be pros and cons. What else do I want to talk about? Talking about all this food is making me hungry. Diet, good stuff, bad stuff. Rats. So yes, so a lot of the research with intermittent fasting is actually conducted in rats. Now, animal studies, they do have a place and they can act as a precursor to the research that's then conducted in humans, which can inform us medically and help with medical therapies, and essentially it helps us progress medical treatment throughout the ages. But it is not to be extrapolated into humans. So for example, cows eat grass, therefore grass is good for humans. Incorrect. So we cannot just make snap judgments. So yeah, there is some promising data in the rat studies, but you cannot just then apply that to humans, because I suspect if you calorie restricted any rat, it will probably do just as well. And actually, when we look at it, they do. So let's just look at the human studies, and like I say, when we compare the two, actually, intermittent fasting is as good as any other diet, but no better. Okay, so we're going to leave it there, guys. I hope you found that useful. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, like. It'll help me out a lot if you found it useful. If you don't like it, thumbs down, I guess. And if you want to see more of my mug, then just hit the bell button, because then you'll get notifications about when we publish more videos. If you haven't done so already and you suffer with diabetes, I do run a blog, diabetesdietguy.com, as in diabetes and diet guy, man. Then head over there, check it out. And if you're watching on the blog, then thanks for visiting, and we'll see you at the next video.